1 second. Let's see, did that fix it? Yay, the microphone's working. Okay, right. Hello and welcome to a Millinery Studio live stream. My name is Ilona, I'm a milliner based in London, and today I'm doing part 2 of the 4-part Books for Millinery series. I hope everyone is well. It's, again, rather hot here. Oh, still no audio? Oh, there is audio. Okay, fine. I should carry on. Sorry about all the technical issues once again. We keep changing the technology. The technology keeps changing and we keep messing it up. But never mind, I think it's all solved now. Hello, Anissa. I'm very well. How are you? I hope you're well. Right, let's jump in. At the beginning of the stream, as usual, I like to show everyone what I've been working on in the past week. And to be honest, in the past week, I have been working very hard because it's coming up to Ascot, it's wedding season, I've got a lot of orders on the go, so I've not had a chance to work on much YouTube video things, but I've been working for real world things, which is a bit different to what I usually do, but I haven't forgotten about you guys on the other side of the world via the internet, and I was passing through a charity shop the other day and I acquired a couple of charity shop hats that I want to do something with. Maybe we'll do this live, or maybe I'll do a video, I don't know, maybe at some point we'll figure out something with these, but I'm going to put these to one side so that we can go through what these are together at some point later on this year. This is a hat that I bought for £1. Can you imagine that? £1. This is a Panama. You can tell it's a Panama because it feels very waxy, and the pattern on it is definitely woven like a Panama. And like I said, £1, absolute steal. It does have some damage on the brim, but that's okay. I can chop the brim off and use the top for something, which is something I want to do at some point in the future with you guys. So that's one hat. And then this hat, this one was a bit more expensive. I think, oh, it says here, $2.99 I paid for this one. It looks very beaten up, but it's rather special because can you see how fine the weave is on the straw? Now, I'm not too sure if this is what I think it is because I've never actually managed to handle some of this straw. This straw being what I think is parabuntal. So you've got parasisal, which is, para means double, so double weave, and sisal is the type of straw. But in this case, this is buntal, which is finer than sisal, and it's a parabuntal weave, 2 times weave, because you can see this kind of star effect on the weave, and it's so fine. You can't get parabuntal anymore because I've heard people say that it used to be produced by children, and the reason why it's so fine is because children have smaller fingers. And so, I mean, if that is the case, thank goodness that we can't buy this anymore. But if I find it in a charity shop, why let it go to waste since the material already exists? So we might as well use it to the fullest and refresh it, which is what I want to do at some point. Another thing I would like to show you guys before we jump into the books, and we will be jumping into the books, there's so many books to jump into today, but before we do that, I forgot to show this bit of fabric on one of my previous live streams. Remember I was saying how I was walking up and down Goldhawk Road in London looking for rainbow pastel fabrics, and I couldn't find any of that. That was in some previous stream. What I did find was this fabric. Let me switch camera views and all will become apparent. Look at this. So this is fabric that came cut on the bias. How weird is that? So it's already, you can see the strands of the fibre going this way. It's very odd that it's been cut on the bias. It's kind of made cut on the bias. I don't know how it's managed that. But I figured this would actually be perfect for using to edge certain buckram hats or maybe turban foundations to soften the edges or something like that. I have no idea what type of fabric this is. It just feels like a slightly stiffened cotton. It doesn't feel like it has any extra chemicals or any kind of starchy stiffeners in it. It just feels like the stiffness is from the cotton fibers that are quite thick. Maybe Rachel, one of my moderators is Rachel from the YouTube channel Labricaloose. Maybe you know what this is. You have much more experience than I do in fibers. Maybe it's a lino or something like that, one of these vintage fibers. Anyway, I came across this and I thought it was interesting and I wanted to share it with anyone. So that's what I've been up to. What's everyone else been up to? Chat amongst yourselves while I switch the things. Rachel does say it looks like something we in the US call tarlatan. I thought it was something similar to that. I've only seen tarlatan in books, so I'm not sure if that's it. But I'm looking forward to testing it out on turban edges. I think it would work quite well there, because it's not too stiff, and yet it feels like it's held its shape. Anyway, some public announcements before we get started. I will be trying something slightly new in the stream today. Sometimes when you watch a YouTube video, you'll see an advert pop up, and that's how YouTube make their money. And I now have the ability to trigger an advert manually during a live stream, so that I can get a little bit of money for spending time live on the platform, which is nice. And I hope you guys don't mind the adverts too much. They do help me pay for the camera equipment. So what I will try and do today is potentially run a couple of adverts at appropriate points during the live stream. If you're paying for YouTube Premium, you won't see the advert, and you'll see a kind of an intermission screen that I have set up. And if you are seeing the adverts, don't worry, you won't miss a second of the live stream. I will wait for the advert to hopefully finish running, give it a couple of minutes, and then jump straight back in. And during the adverts, that gives me a really nice time to go and get myself a glass of water, because we are in the summer, it is hot, and it is humid, and oh, I do look rather shiny on the camera, I've just noticed. Oh well. So, that's the admin all done. Shall we make a start on the books? So last week, who remembers what we discussed last week? Not last week, last time, which was a couple of weeks ago. My memory is exceptionally bad, but I think we discussed the kind of millinery textbook options. So books that have been produced as learning materials specifically for quite serious milliners, or they were produced at the beginning of the turn of the century, which means that they were quite dry, not too many pictures, not too many diagrams. Some of the mid-century ones were a little bit more enthusiastic and a little more easy to read. Anyway, that's all the technical things. Today, we'll do the fun things. The fun things being books for inspiration. So, there is a list of the books that I will be looking at today in the description box below. So have a look at that if you want to kind of join in, as it were. You don't have to have these books, definitely. These are just the books that I have. I don't necessarily recommend you buy every single book on that list. I'm a bit of a completionist, so I wanted to list every single book that I own on the subject of millinery or millinery adjacent subjects. And as we go through them, I'll give you my thoughts on, would I recommend someone buy it? Is it necessary? Who do I think maybe that book is targeted at? You might not be the perfect person to buy this book, but someone else you know might be, so you can take this knowledge and recommend these books to all your other millinery friends out there. Right, first book. Let's change camera views so you can see the book. There it is. It's this one. The Mode in Hats and Headdresses. Oh, let me just quickly read what Rachel's written in the chat. Rachel says, books with archaic, unsafe work practices, recommended but useful technique info when read with a contemporary sense of skepticism about things like asbestos and gasoline. Oh, yes, definitely. Obviously, please use your common sense from, when you read books from published before this year, because you don't know the safety practices that were, well, there were no safety practices in the early 20th century. So just, yes, be careful, as Rachel says. And I think I do go over that in the last Millinery Books live stream. And if you're joining me for the first time and you didn't see that live stream, go and have a look at that. It's available as a video on demand if you're interested in textbook millinery books. Right. Back to the mode in hats and headdresses. This is written by someone called Ruth Turner Wilcox, and I think, let me open up my notes here, which are off screen. I think this was written in 1959 originally, but my version is a 2008 reprint. So what is this book? What's it all about? It's a historical survey with 198 fashion plates. It's all it is. It's pretty much a bunch of illustrations, I think possibly done by the author. I didn't think to double check that. And I'll be very honest, I did not read this book cover to cover. I tried. I promise you, I tried to read this book cover to cover, but it's not the most exciting, it's not written in the most exciting and engaging way. And to get through a book of, how many pages is this? 347 pages. I just couldn't quite bring myself to do it. Why did I buy this book? Well, it does give you a really good indication of the type of styles that were around at specific points in history. So what I really like about the illustrations is that the illustration is accompanied with the designer of the hat and the year that the design was made. And so I've got a few things bookmarked that I really wanted to show you that I find really exciting. And the first one of these, well, actually, it starts with a lot of kind of Tudor, ancient Greek, mid-century, just all over. Well, it's chronological. It's not all over the place, but I'm talking about it all over the place. I'm sorry. I will get focused in 1 second. I haven't had enough tea today to focus. So I've got something bookmarked here, flowers. So clearly I was using it as a reference book. And I think this is a book that's part of a series of books written by the same author. Oh yes, Rachel's telling that telling us about that in the chat. So go and chat to Rachel in the chat about what she's saying. Yes. So what do I find most interesting in this book? It's obviously the mid-century section, you know me. A kind of 1940s onward. The 1930s aren't that exciting in this book. I feel like there's a lot more exciting 1930s hats that haven't really been included. There's a lot of hair here. Yeah, all of these hats. So 1920 to 1930 sports. I think there's a lot more interesting looking 1930s hats than the ones listed here. So it's not particularly great for that. But it did enable me to discover one of my new favourite milliners, and that is a lady called, well, here she's referenced as Valentina, but actually her name is Valentina Sanina Schlee, I think. So I think she was an immigrant to America, and she married a German, I think. Oh dear, I should have read up on the history first. But I wanted to show you, these illustrations don't really do justice to her hats. Let me share my screen and just show you. Scene 2. That's not it. That's not it, sorry. Screen share, there it is. Screen share. So, hopefully you can see my screen and see all of Valentina's lovely hats. I'm going to zoom in on that. Let's see. Does that work? See them a little bit bigger there. There she is, wearing one of her own hats. They're quite fun. Let's see if I can find... This is one of my favourite ones that she wears, that she's made. It's this kind of tricorn or even quattro corn, I guess you could call it, because it's got 4 corners and a little bit of a veil. And she's got a cone on her head there. I went through a bit of a cone hats phase, which is how I discovered her and got excited about her. Look at all these cone hats. Anyway, that's Valentina. Weird foray into into a few of my favourite milliners. What else have I bookmarked? Oh, I think this is my most favourite hat in the entire book, and I might not have managed to read the entire book, but I did look at every single picture in the entire book, and this is my favourite one. This is a black felt taupe cabbage rose Balenciaga 1951. And I cannot find a photograph or illustration of this hat that is not from this book. I'm really annoyed by that because I would have loved to have seen what this hat actually looked like, but all I can do is just imagine it. So there it is. This is my quest, is if I ever come across a Balenciaga hat that looks like this, I will feel like that's another thing off my to-do list ticked off. Would I recommend someone buy this book? Not really, if I'm honest. I don't think you need to buy this book. It's not the most important book to have. Sorry, I'm just getting my notes up again. They keep disappearing off my phone. Come on, phone. Show me the notes. Why is it not showing me the notes? It's supposed to auto-rotate on my phone, but it's not doing it. Oh, there we go. Right, lovely. So yes, I wouldn't recommend this book. I don't think you need it. I think buy it if you're specifically interested in millinery history, but at the same time, I feel like this isn't going to give you easily accessible millinery history. You really have to have a lot of fortitude to get through this book. Would you guys like a quick reading? In the last stream, we did quick snippet readings. Let me give you the first paragraph from the chapter 23 on 1940 to 1944. These were the grim and tragic years of the Second World War, with France fallen and shut off from the outside world. Heroic London was turning out a limited amount of designing, and New York, more fortunately situated, carried on in costume design and did very well at it. You see, I struggled reading that a little bit. I don't quite like how it's written. I don't like the sentence structures. I find it a little bit difficult to read. Anyway, so here's that book. I'm undecided, but yes, I'll leave it up to you guys to decide. If you do decide to buy it, and you buy it and you read it, let me know what you think in the comments. I wonder if you agree with me or if you think that I'm totally wrong and this is the most amazing book ever. So just let me know. Next book. Oh, I forgot to mention the end of this book. From the last stream, if you buy this one, A Textbook of Model Millinery by Ethel Langridge. If you get this one, I think a bit of it is included in the end of this one. As in a bit of the mode in hats and headdresses. I think these are the same illustrations and the same text, but it's condensed. So I think it's a lot easier to read that one. So if you end up getting this one from the previous stream, you really don't need to buy this mode in hats and headdresses. Right, let's move on. Next one. Next one isn't really a book. Well, it is, but it's not. No, it's really not a book. It's a fashion sketchbook that's designed to help you draw hats. I think this is produced by a Chinese company and printed in China. It's called Fashionary Headwear Edition, and it almost matches my nails. And what I do like about it, I'll start by what I like about it, and then I'll show you what I don't like about it, and then I'll give you some alternatives. The reason I'm including this sketchbook, help book, reference book, in this section is because sometimes you might want to draw your hats. I appreciate that not everyone likes drawing or wants to draw or thinks they can draw, but some people do like it, some people enjoy it, and I would recommend that even if you don't enjoy it, you just give it a go. You don't have to show anyone your drawings if you don't like them, or you might surprise yourself. Anyway, so why did I get this book? I got this book because it's supposed to have, I wonder if you can see on the camera or if the lighting's not too great, it's got these little perforated lines on this book of a head. So it's got like a middle head, one facing 3/4 of the way to the left and one facing 3/4 of the way to the right. And they're quite faint dotted lines in orange, one of my favourite colours. I did get slightly drawn in by the fact that this book was branded in orange lines. And I bought this about 3 years ago and I haven't used it. Oh, whoopsie. Camera's gone. Let me just fix that camera. Oh, I think I might need my husband's help because I don't know where the batteries are. Husband, come help me. Come help me with the batteries, husband. It's this one. It's this one. It's this one. Sorry, everyone. You see, when I don't do this often, I forget how to do it. Do you know what? We might as well take a little intermission break while I change the cameras. So let me pop on the intermission screen, which is, where is it? Welcome back, everybody. I am very sorry about all these technical issues. Did anyone see an ad? I'm curious. Did that even work? Right. Where were we? We'll jump straight back in and not waste time. So let's see if I can bring this closer, because I think you were struggling to see. Can we see those now? Charlotte says, that drawing book looks interesting. I struggle with drawing, although I'm not bad at drawing the back of the head. Aha, well, Charlotte, I might have something to help you with that in 1 second. Let's finish discussing this book and then we'll talk about how to help with your drawing. This is very relevant to all of this stream because this is inspirational hats. So you might want to copy out certain elements or draw some elements to understand them. Anyway, we'll get into that in a second. Right, let's have a look at these heads. So, oh. Are they loading? Oh, there we go. Right. These are the heads. Don't they look creepy? Look at that. They give me nightmares, these heads. Look at that. I forgot how creepy they looked until I've looked at them closely just now. Look at that. I actually find these throw me off a bit because you can see the 3 heads. And it's very, very, very weird. But what you do get in this book... Oh, let's refocus that. Will it refocus? Come on. Come on, camera, behave. There we go. Right, what you do get in this book is a lot of nice illustrations about what things are. They're not necessarily totally correct, I think, but they're interesting. I like how they've done the illustration of various points at which to measure the head. I think this can be very useful. Standard international hat size chart. Once again, I don't know how accurate this is. Oh, I guess it's accurate. My head circumference is 54 centimeters. Tiny head, yes, I know. And I would say that is an S. And then M, standard M, 57 is the kind of 56, 57 is standard M. So I guess it seems okay. And eyebrows. Oh, shall we play a game? What eyebrows have I got? I think, what eyebrows have I got? According to this book. Tell me in the chat which eyebrows that I have that match the eyebrow styles given. Anyway, you've got a female face, a male face. They're not really that different, obviously. Different styles of noses, ears, lip shapes. I think this is a bit too much for millinery drawing purposes. Oh, my husband says I've got steep arch eyebrows. Thank you, my darling. Different hairstyles. This one's my favourite. Liberty spikes back in the 80s. Oh, Anissa says the third row, the third on the row. Soft angled or S-shaped, one of those. What else have we got? Oh, this was actually the exciting thing for me. It was the hat library hats. Again, I don't necessarily agree with all of these. I think these are actually very subjective. So you can decide for yourselves whether these are correct or not. Because some of these they've described as like a whole hat, but I would sometimes say that you've got a like an X type of crown and an X type of brim, for example. So yeah, like the trilby and the fedora and the Tyrolean seem to all have a very similar crown, but what their difference is the brims. Rachel says, I spy a Frida Kahlo unibrow. Maybe I should try that one day. Apparently that's quite popular now. Oh, I think the internet is dropping off. Oh, no, I think it's back. The internet is back. Lovely. Glossary. Oh, I haven't actually read through this. The type on this is tiny. Nope, the internet's dropping again. Uh-oh. Husband, the internet has dropped. Oh, no, it's back. It's very odd. It's fluctuating. You're getting the same. Hopefully we're back. Maybe we're back to the internet being funny on a Sunday because the internet service providers are doing things. Hopefully I'm back. We'll just give it 1 second to... I'm getting different readings for the internet off my streaming software and YouTube. YouTube says it's not working, and my streaming software says it does. I'll carry on. Charlotte says it's okay at the moment, so I guess I'll carry on. Okay, you can still follow me. Great. Well, so this was the Fashionary dictionary, I guess you could call it. With all the various creepy heads. But what I really want to talk to you guys about is something that's to do with illustration that you can get from me. And I personally think it's a little bit better than this book because, as I said, I find the drawings in this book creepy. And after buying this book, I thought, well, I don't need this book. I don't like the paper in this book. I don't like the paper quality. And I suspect that it's a bit too thin to be able to use it double-sided like it's printed, and it feels like it wouldn't work so well. So I have created my own head templates. Hopefully you can see that on there. I should really switch to the other camera view and then we can talk about these on this side. So this is a pack of fashion head templates. Husband, if you could link to the pack of fashion head templates in the chat over to my website. They are on a sale offer today. If you buy these head templates from my website today, they cost £5. On any other day, they will cost £7.50. So if you'd like to get your pack of heads for drawing from my website. They are available today for £5 until the end of the day. So you can go and have a look at that once the stream is over. Oh, and if you are signed up to my Patreon, you will get these included in your Patreon subscription, as well as other benefits, including video calls, messaging and feedback on your hat designs and help with your hat projects. So you can go and have a look at my Patreon as well. Maybe husband will post that into the chat. Right, let's go through what is in this template pack. So you've got your little instruction page, and this will tell you exactly what comes in your pack. It's available as as in European A4 pages or as American letter pages, so you can print them at home to your specification. And what you get is one large head facing to the right that you can draw on. Then you get a head facing to the left that you can draw on. And with this one, because it's landscape, I like to draw wide-brimmed hats on this. So if you can imagine like a mushroom hat or something that's very, very wide, like a Dior hat, like the hat that Audrey Hepburn wears in Breakfast at Tiffany's, that's what this is good for. Then you've got the same, but in a portrait, and it's nice and big. So if you're not confident with drawing, you might find it easier to draw big, so you can just focus on just various lines and things like that. So you can do that on this one. And this is for tall hats. So the landscape was for wide hats. The tall one is for tall hats. It's the same facing the other way. So you get all the options. Then there's a set of 4 medium ones. And it tells you on the bottom what they are. So these are fashion head templates, 3/4 view at Byloan and Millinery. So yeah, so you can know where they're from. Then you get a page of 8 small heads. These are really useful for jotting down very quick ideas, or if you're working through iterations of some hats, if you're not sure what color you want to make something in or what trim you want something. I'll go through some examples that I've drawn in a second. Then you've got 2 profile heads facing each other. You can do some nice hats on here that have like trimmings on the side. So something where a side view is very prominent. That's what you can use these for. You get them as a pack of 2 or as a pack of 4 in portrait. So depending on whether you prefer to draw portrait or landscape. And then this one's one of my favorite ones. Oh, it's printed in a funny way. My printer went funny. Hopefully your printer won't do this. These are backhead views. These are really good for 1950s vintage style callow half hats, which are one of my favorite type of hats. And I'll show you some examples of how to draw those in 1 second. And then you get a load of them on one page as well. If you have a look at the American page, American letter size page, there'll be slightly different numbers of the heads, but when you buy the pack, you get access to download either the A4 or the letter, whichever one you prefer. And also on the instructions, I go through what kind of paper I like to use and that kind of thing. And I've also got 2 YouTube videos that you can click on the digital download, which will take you through to some of my previous YouTube videos where I was illustrating hats. So that might be helpful to you, Charlotte. Hopefully it will be helpful to other people too. I hope you enjoy those. Let me show you quickly how I use these. And I promise you this is very relevant to what we'll be looking at through all of the inspiration books, because if you see something, you get inspired, you want to draw it. So here is a drawing of something I did very quickly. This is one of these vintage style back of the head callow half hat shapes drawn on the back of the head here. This is me using one of the, ignore the side, this was me developing the format of the page, so it's changed slightly. It's no longer orange, and it's not got these up the side, so don't worry about that. It will look like the download looks, you'll see. And this is me using the tall portrait to draw a little teardrop, which I think I might have worn in the previous live stream, or I might have shown it in the previous live stream. Anyway, if you recognize this hat, you know what this was for. And then I've got a page of the 4 heads facing in different directions with various different hat designs drawn on. And as when I draw the hat on, I'm not the best artist. I just kind of draw little diagrams with color references, and then I annotate them down the side. And what you can do is the quality of the line, it should be quite thin and not too thick. You can then take your pen and, oh, this is a brush pen, that's not what I meant to take, but you can follow the outline of the head. And if you don't outline the construction lines, then you don't see them as much. So that's just a quick tip on how to use those. There we go. So that's those. So you have options. You can go and have a look at the Fashionary, or you can go and have a look at my website and download your own printable pack. And while this book is really fun with all the various hat names and shapes like that, you can obviously find that in lots of other places. But what I really like about my template version, other than the fact that it's mine, I mean, that's a bit obvious, but what I really like about my template version is that because it's printable, you can print it on any kind of paper you like. So if your printer can take something like watercolor paper, which is rather thick, just make sure your printer can handle that kind of paper before you try. Your printer manual should say whether it can do that or not. If you like drawing in watercolor, you can print these templates on watercolor paper, draw your designs in watercolor, and know that the paper won't warp because you've used the right medium on the right paper and you've got your construction lines. Charlotte says, that looks great. I'll certainly get the templates. Thank you, Charlotte. I hope you enjoy using them. And if you've got any feedback from me once you've used the templates, do let me know, because I'm very happy to update things. Maybe there aren't enough heads, maybe there's too many heads, maybe the lines are in the wrong places. So if you do get the templates and use them for a bit, just let me know how you got on. And if you'd like to share your designs with me, you can always send them to me on Instagram at @Millinery. We'll get back to the books. But now that you know where to get the templates, you can feel inspired during this live stream and draw your own hats. Next book, Hats, an anthology by Stephen Jones, obviously, and also written with Oriel Cullen. This was produced with the V&A, and I think Oriel Cullen is one of the curators at the V&A, or she's certainly part of the V&A in some way. I can't quite remember her job role. So, what's great about this book? Let me get my notes up. There's so many books, I couldn't possibly keep all this information on my head, so I am having to refer to some notes. This was published originally in 2009, and it's written in the style of an exhibition guide, which I actually think is really accessible and really fun, and it makes it really easy to look at the images that they have. There's a little tiny bit of text that you can read through very quickly. It's very accessibly written, very easy to read. Target for this, anyone really. Do you know what? If you're a fan of Stephen Jones and you want to know how Stephen Jones thinks, this is the book for you. I think you can find it secondhand even these days on eBay or on Amazon or on 8 Books or any of the other kind of secondhand bookshops, so you don't have to pay a fortune for it. One of the pages I really enjoyed was this spread, and what this is it's, well, I'll read you the caption of what this is. This is a selection of ephemera which inspires Stephen Jones' design process and the resulting hats. Above, Folly Hat. Below, RHS Hat. Both Spring-Summer 2005. Opposite top, Tube Hat. And opposite below, Costermonger Hat. Both Covent Garden Collection, Autumn-Winter 2008. So, oh, couldn't quite see the Tube Hat. There's the Tube Hat for all of us London lovers out there. I actually don't like this one that much. I feel like if you're going to do a tube hat, you can be a little more creative than a roundel and the tube maps, and for some reason the district line is all squiggly. Oh well. Anyway, this is quite nice. I really, really enjoyed this book. But once again, as with most of these books, I have to confess, I haven't actually read it cover to cover. Primarily because these are essentially picture books. There's no need to read it cover to cover. Oh, look at this illustration. Isn't it stunning? Matthew says, needs to be updated for the Elizabeth line. Well, yes, indeed. If for those who don't know, London has just opened a new underground line. It's not technically part of the Tube network, but there are plenty of other YouTube videos that will tell you what the difference is between the Elizabeth line and the Tube line. Obviously named for our Queen, who was celebrating her Jubilee last weekend. And, oh, this one was really nice. I like the branded ribbon. I thought that was really fun. This is a hat from 1910, apparently. I just thought the branded ribbon was a lot of fun. So that's this book. Would you guys like to hear an excerpt? Let's read something very quickly. Oh, well, I've got a bookmark in here. Let's see, where did I stop? Just this paragraph here. The making of the milliner. As he describes at the beginning of this book, Stephen Jones discovered millinery while working at the house of Lachasse. Oh dear, that sounds French, but I think it's from London. On a summer placement from his fashion degree course at Central St. Martin's School of Art. Here he learnt under the watchful eye of Shirley Hex, the head of the Lachasse millinery workroom. Jones graduated in fashion, but his training owed more to the traditional method of apprenticeship than to college studies as at the time there was no option to specialise in millinery at Central St. Martin's. So there we go. A bit of information on Stephen Jones and various things from his life. Oh, look at that. That's fun. That's straw braid, but woven together using thick red yarn, it looks like. That's fun. Anyway, you see, inspiration. If I wasn't on a live stream, I might go and doodle this out so I remember it and annotate it. Next book. We'll shoot through these because they're mainly picture books. I don't want to spend too long on these. Vintage Hats and Bonnets, 1770 to 1970. Identification and Values, 2nd edition. So, written by Susan Langley. Let's get my notes up. This was recommended to me by one of my Patreons. Thank you, Roxanne. I did buy this book as per your recommendation, and I have enjoyed the pictures. And I say it like that because I did not really enjoy the text. Are there any graphic designers in the chat at the moment? Because if there are, this book will shock you. Before I shock you, it's a nice book. It's got really good pictures. It's got really good dates in it. So if you wanted to learn about what hats are prevalent at what times in history, I actually think this book is way better than this book for that purpose. But let me show you the page layout. Oh dear. Whoops. Look at all this. All this extra frill on the pages. Oh dear. And it's in the middle of the book as well. It's under the text. All the captions are in italic and bold. That makes it difficult to read, but the pictures are pretty good. So I guess I will stop ranting about the typography and let's focus on the good parts of this book. The good parts of this book, essentially, bonnets, 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 just lots of bonnets, because obviously the dates here, 1770 onwards, lots of bonnets. I don't really work in that early millinery. I really only look at mid-century or early 20th century onwards, so this book isn't that useful to me. But look, the 1910 section already kind of starts halfway through at page 200, and it does have some interesting illustrations. someone in a carriage there full of pigeons. That was not expecting to see that in a millinery book. Full of surprises. Let's see what I've bookmarked as notable content. Where are all my post-its? Oh, look at these. Aren't these lovely? These are so wonderful. Some more spiral stitched straw there with extra lines. And look at this hat. These type of hats were very popular in the 50s and 60s. This is covered in Lily of the Valley. Rachel says, I have this one as part of my reference library at the theatre. The pictures of extant hats are great, but the graphic design of it is amateur at best. I mean, I'd call it worse than amateur, Rachel, honestly. Like, if most of your book is going to be in captions, and you know that there's a lot of text in captions, let's not make it bold and italic. And it's also written in a slightly cringy way, actually. I think this book is very good for pictures, and if you can get it secondhand or cheaper or something like that, it's worth it. But it is very... I was going to read you out this section, but it's just written in such a cringy way that I don't think I actually want to read it out loud live, so I'll just leave that there. But oh, look at this one. Look at this stunning feather. Let's read this caption. Okay. Grace models a devastating black satin cocktail cartwheel with a 16-inch wide brim that's so smothered in luxurious black ostrich plumes that only a portion of the shallow crown peeps through. It's lustrous black satin over fur felt with a couture label Melchoir Groe, New York. It's also stamped Le Grand Merrimack fur felt inside the crown. That was a bit difficult to read, wasn't it? Partly because I couldn't see what I was reading because the text is bad. Anyway, the pictures are good though. The pictures are really good. So I do recommend that for the pictures. Oh, look at this bonnet. You see, I'm just going to get distracted. This is going to make me want to make bonnets now because look at this lace. Look at this sheared fabric. Oh, it's so lovely. Oh, and the pink ostrich. Oh, anything pink and I love it. Anyway, that's this book. If you want, obviously, the publishing information so that you can buy it, have a look in the description box. All the information is down there. Next one. We're kind of getting to the hats, the books that I really appreciate. It just so happens that the books I appreciate less are the ones that were published earlier than the more recent ones. I prefer the more recent books. Let's have a look at this one. Then we'll take a quick break because I am parched. I need to have a glass of water and then we'll come back and finish off. So, what is this book? This is The Design Museum's 50 Hats That Changed the World. This is an exhibition guidebook. I think there was an exhibition at some point at the Design Museum. The Design Museum is a general design museum in London. It's nothing really to do with fashion. It's more about graphic design and architecture and things like that. And it's in central London somewhere. I think it's in Chelsea. I think it's in Chelsea. Anyway, it's a really nice museum. If you're ever in London and you want to take a break from fashion and hats and all that, and you've been to the V&A, go to the Design Museum instead. It's really good. This is turning out to be a bit of a kind of let's promote London live stream, isn't it? With the tube and the and the museum talk. Rachel says, it's a little bit charming that whoever wrote it has a name like Grace for their mannequin heads. It is. We should all... well, I name my mannequin heads. I think, Rachel, you've named your mannequin heads. My mannequin heads are called Anne, after Anne Boleyn, Charlie, after King Charles, who was beheaded, King Charles I of England. And my most recent mannequin head is called Cece, after Cicero, who was a Roman person and he was beheaded, I think. Yes. So I like to name my heads after beheaded people. That's just me. Right. Back to this book. This book goes through what it thinks are the most important hats in... it does what it says on the cover. 50 Hats That Changed the World. Do I think you should buy this book? No, probably not. But I thought we could have a bit of fun on the live stream and agree whether some of these hats changed the world or not. I'm not going to show you all of them, otherwise we'd be here for ages. I have bookmarked some that I do actually agree with that they changed the world. I had it open. There he is. Fez. I love fezzes. Fezzes are cool, as Doctor Who once said. So I think the fezzes have changed the world. Oh, bowler hats in Peru. Actually, this was very interesting to read. So if you do want to learn about why all these lovely Peruvian ladies are wearing bowler hats, you can either buy this book or you can look it up. I think Wikipedia might have an article on it, but it's very interesting. But this is not the live stream for me to explain to you why the ladies of Peru are wearing bowler hats. What other hats do I think have changed the world? Oh, the shoe hat by Schiaparelli. I do quite love Schiaparelli, so shoe hats. I mean, I guess if you wanted a general overview of interesting hats from history, I don't necessarily think that these hats have changed the world, but they are certainly interesting hats that it's worth knowing about. And I bought this book so that I could read it on the tube, or just, you know, whilst doing something inconsequential when you just need like a bit of a magazine book. It's a bit like a coffee table book, a mini coffee table book that's just easy to take out, read a short chapter, and feel like you've fulfilled your hat knowledge quota for the day. Find out something new every day. And in fact, if you read one of these excerpts a week, you could learn about all these hats in a year. There's 52 weeks in a year, 50 hats. Oh, the Jackie Kennedy pillbox hat. Here it is. I do have a video on this hat and why it is, what it is, and where it is, and how to make it. I haven't read past where the bookmark is, so I don't know what is in here. What else? Oh, this is a very famous one. This one's very famous. This is the Balenciaga hat that John from JWH Millinery on YouTube, links all down below to all the other millinery YouTubers. We spoke about this hat when we had a look at Eurovision headwear. So go and watch that video as well. Oh, Rachel says the Cecil Beaton black and white from My Fair Lady. Here it is. I'm surprised that I haven't come across here the hat from Breakfast at Tiffany's, but I guess maybe I've just missed it, or maybe it hasn't. Let's see. Is it here? No, it's not in here. Ah, but the Dior hat, the Dior new look. I'm not sure why they think this hat is so important, because actually the new look was more about this. I mean, this is a nice hat to go with this outfit, but I don't necessarily think this hat is of as much significance as the corset and the hip pads and all of that going on in there. What else have we got? Oh, this hat. This hat is quite something. You should look up, if you have a moment, the investiture of Prince Charles as Prince of Wales from 1969. This hat was very interesting. It's like a helmet, and I don't know if it was supposed to be like a helmet for the Queen to appear slightly militarized or something, because you've got kind of these beads on the top that make it look like spikes, and then you've got this padded outer shell. It looks even more terrifying from the front. This is a picture of the back of this hat, which actually makes the hat look a bit tame. But if you have a look at the hat from the front, it's really very, very weird. What else have we got? The Queen's Silver Jubilee hat. Oh, not one of my most favourite hats, but yeah, pink. I mean, it's pink. I can't fault it. What else have we got? We've got a Princess Diana there. We've got... And then you get the more modern ones. I struggle to see how they can be classified as changing the world, although I would wear that. Oh, this one I love, although I think it should have been red. Red coat, red glove, red hat. That would have looked stunning. This is the hat for Aretha Franklin. Let's read the excerpt so that you can get an idea of what this book sounds like. Aretha Aretha Franklin and her grey-bowed hat take centre stage at President Obama's inauguration in 2009. The hat was every bit as bold and as vigorous as her mighty-lunged delivery of "My country, 'tis of thee." Interesting. So there we go. This is 50 hats that changed the world from the Design Museum. I think you can't buy this new anymore, so it's only secondhand. So I apologize if you can't get your hands on it. But if anyone is interested in a specific hat from this book and they want to find out a little bit more about it, let me know and I can send you some information from this book. So there we go. That is... that's this one. So what I want to do now, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 books left. Oh, whoops. Sorry. Oh dear. Pressing the wrong buttons today. We've got four books left. I'm very warm, I'm very shiny, and I'm very thirsty. So I'm going to take a very quick break and I'll be right back. Don't worry, you're not missing anything. Go and get a break as well. Have a glass of water and keep yourselves cool if it's as hot where you are as where I am. Hello everyone, I'm back. Did everybody enjoy the break? I certainly did. I downed 2 cups of water and this is the 3rd cup of water. Charlotte in the chat says, the Dior New Look photo was actually taken in 1957 for his New Look relaunch. Oh, I mean, you're probably right. I seem to remember that being a thing. Let's see what it says in this book about that. Where was it? 1957. It was somewhere here. Oh. Oh, are they not chronological? Oh no, here it is. Does it say? Oh, it does say here. Although Christian Dior. Yeah, I don't know. But that is very interesting. Thank you, Charlotte. It doesn't say that in this book, but I mean, this book is not going to be like the most historical. I think this is more of a kind of, oh, look at these hats, aren't they interesting? More than a kind of heavy-handed history. Right. The last 4 books happen to be my absolute favourites, so I hope you're all ready for this. This one is very big and heavy, and it's called London Couture, 1923 to 1975, British luxury. It's very heavy, and to be honest, I bought it because it's about fashion in London, not necessarily about hats, but I think it's relevant to hats because it's got a good context between hats and fashion. Shall I zoom out a little bit more? Ooh. Maybe to over here. Refocus. There we go. Right. What's so great about this book? I mean, London, big fan of London. This is turning to be a little bit of a live stream about London. Right, let's have a look. What have I highlighted to share with you guys? Oh, look at this stunning wedding ensemble. So this book doesn't actually have specific hat images or hat illustrations, but what I like about it is that it shows you the hats in context next to the outfits, because it's very easy for us milliners to just think about a hat as, oh, it's just a hat. But in reality, you're never going to wear just a hat. So you want to think about hats in context with the clothes that they're going to be worn with. And this book is very good as a reference for that. It is mainly, of course, about just the fashion houses that were around in London during the dates that I've just mentioned. But look at this stunning hat. I haven't quite managed to figure out what it is, but it's either straw or it's ribbon or it's something. The caption says, Matty ladies suit wool with silk sash, London 1953. And it does look very 53. Look at the contrast between the black and the other suiting fabric, and you've got the black shoes and the black gloves, and look at the heel on that shoe. That is a perfect curve. Anyway, we're here to talk about hats, not about shoes. This hat, it looks textured to me. It almost looks like it's got folded ribbons all around it. That's what this hat looks like to me. So if I was to illustrate this, I would probably get one of my illustration pages, probably this one. I'd get out this page with all these small ones because I don't need to use up a lot of space. And I'd draw out this shape, so just the triangle. In fact, shall we just very quickly do that? Let's quickly doodle this hat and you'll all see how badly I draw. So look, it's just this, right? That's the shape. And then I'll draw it over and over again. It's not necessarily going to be the correct proportions every time, but this is how I would use these templates. Let's draw a fourth one, so we've got options. So now we've got options to decorate. I'm actually going to get a pen. Normally I'd continue in pencil, but I think the pen will show up a little bit better. So let's say, to me it looks like it's folded ribbons. So I would start by just kind of illustrating like this, folded ribbons. Kind of like scales. And what I mean about folded ribbons, gosh, it's going to take me ages to get to the end of the hat. But you see this texture here, that's what's giving me this kind of scale vibe, and the end has got them kind of hanging over here like this. I guess it could also be feathers. You see, now that I'm drawing it out, I'm starting to think about what materials could this kind of hat be? Anissa says, I really enjoy the book review live. Oh, I'm really glad that you're enjoying the live stream. Thank you so much. And obviously there wouldn't be much point in doing a live stream if you guys didn't join me live. So thank you to everyone who is watching live, taking the time to participate. It's really lovely having you there to chat with while I talk about books. So this could be ribbons, and maybe next to it I would draw a little explanation. So I'm kind of thinking that this is a ribbon that's been folded underneath like this, underneath itself, and it's Petersham, so it's going to have the jaggedy edges there. And I've drawn it slightly wrong. There we go, like this. So this is what I mean by these kind of folded ribbons. I think it's this. Draw the Petersham lines on it. There it is. So I think this consists of these, or potentially it's feathers. And maybe because it's feathers, I'm going to use a different type of pen. This is a brush pen, and I'll just make sure that it's not seeping into the book. I'll just pop a book I don't really care about underneath it. There we go. So maybe it's feathers. There it is. That's what it could potentially look like with feathers. So this would be a feather that's kind of like this. You know those kind of little tiny guinea fowl feathers or something like that, or really little tiny goose feathers? I'm not sure off the top of my head what these feathers look like. But essentially this, but layered like this. So that's my two options. I mean, I've given myself two other options, but I'm not really sure what else it could be. Oh, it could be a spiral straw that's got triangular edges. How would we draw that? Maybe triangles. And once again, triangles. And you see, look, these aren't the best drawings, but this is kind of what I want to explain to you guys, that when you get inspired by a hat that you see in a book or in a dream or just out and about somewhere, you don't have to be the best artist in the world to just get the general gist down on a piece of paper. And I'm struggling to draw and talk at the same time. And I do apologise that there's no music during this live stream, but as I said at the beginning, I've got new technology and I can't get it to work. Right, let's say this is... Look, when you don't know what it is, you just write it down. So, triangle, zigzag, straw braid, spiral stitch. Done. That is also what this could be. Hopefully that was helpful. So that's one way that I would use these templates. Let's see what else I've got in this book bookmarked. I haven't actually read this cover to cover yet again, but what I have read from it, it has been very interesting. But this book is massive. Look at how big this book is. See? Giant book. And there's no way I can take this on the tube with me. It weighs an absolute ton, so I struggle to read it on the go. So I should really find some time to read it at home. Oh, look at this. You see, this is the context. You've got a little callow half hat, or maybe even a skull cap, because I think it's going down to the base of her head down there. I learnt a few weeks ago that the base of the head, I think, is called the occipital bone, and Rachel taught me that the other day, so we're all always learning. So this is going down to the base of her skull, and it's hugging her head, so that's what makes me think that it's more of a skull cap maybe rather than a callow hard hat. And it's such a shame that we can't see the back of this, but what we do get is this little snippet triangle that's coming round the side of her head. And that's very interesting. Oh, and she's got a swan umbrella here. So it's interesting that the designer, who is, let's see, opposite, John Kavanagh tweed suit with swan umbrella. So it's interesting that the designer has made this suit with these kind of flowy lines, and they've given her a swan umbrella, and then they've mirrored that in the hat. So if you're ever designing a hat for yourself or for someone else or whatever, and you know what they're going to wear, you can use these style lines to inform your hat design. And the way you're going to learn to spot these kind of things is by either going and doing a millinery course, like a proper accredited millinery design course or a fashion design course, or you're going to learn yourself by just looking at books like this. This is why inspiration books are so important. Not necessarily this one, but any books that you find and you like and find inspirational yourself. In fact, if there's any inspirational books, design books for hats that you guys find inspiring, let me know what they are. I might not have heard of them, and I'd love to know. I'm always looking for book recommendations, so pop them in the chat, or if you're watching later, leave me a comment. I do my best to respond to all the comments. This is another hat. This is an Aggie Tarrap hat. We all know I'm a big Aggie Tarrap fangirl. These are daisies. They look like they've got velvet centres. These are really, really sweet. Aggie Tarrap hat, organza daisies mounted on an organza covered wireframe, London 1960s, from the V&A Museum. Actually, I may have seen this hat at the V&A archives. Now that I've clocked that it's a V&A hat, I think I might have seen this one in person. That's exciting. Right, one last post-it note in this giant book. Oh, and I didn't even show you guys the front and back pages. I'll show them to you in a second. Oh, look at this. Oh, isn't that stunning? Ralph and Russo Couture, Fashion in Motion, Victoria and Albert Museum, 2014. Look at that. That looks like it's a little button base or maybe even a teardrop with some, I think that's black satin with some black veiling pulled over it. It's not showing on the camera, but I think that's what this is. And organza on a wire frame around her head. And once again, you can see that mirrored in the shoulders and the organza overlaying the fabric. You get the spikiness down here with the beading. You've got the spiky edges up here, and then you've got the spiky edges here. And the shine and everything, it's all mirrored through. It all works as one cohesive outfit. Let's have a look at the front and back pages. There is a specific term. Oh, bookends? No, that's something else. I can't remember what these pages are called, but they are stunning. Look at these. Aren't they lovely? Oh, I really enjoy the idea of these hats. I haven't been brave enough to make something like this myself, but you see this kind of, it's like a mini topper hat. So got a very, very squat crown, little flat brim, and then there's just something sticking out of the front. I think it's a lot of fun. It's very 50s. It's very specific to the 50s, and I've not seen anyone wear something like that these days. Maybe I will be brave enough to make one of those and give it a go wearing it myself out and about, or even sell it. I wonder how well that would sell. I think it's a very specialist hat. I think only for the very brave. Let's have a look at the front. Look at that. Oh, look at this green dress over here. The nice mint colour there. Oh, this is the same picture from... Oh, wait, are they the same? Wait, yes, they are. They are the identical pictures. Are they? Oh, not quite identical. There's a few different ones. Yes. These two ball gowns don't exist on the front, but I think the rest of them... And yes, it's been replaced there. But yes, these are very exciting. Oh, look at this. Look at the bustle on this skirt. End papers. Rachel says maybe the pages are called end papers. I think you're right. They might be end papers. Anyway, oh, it's a squeaky book. Because it's so big. Anyway, this is one of my favourite ones to just flick through in the evening. Sometimes, you know, when you don't really feel like watching TV, but you just want to have a cup of tea and sit on the sofa and unwind, this is what this book is good for. Unwind and learn at the same time. Oh, very heavy. Maybe I should do my exercises with that book instead of dumbbells. Right, next book. 100 Years of Fashion Illustration by Kaye Blackman. This, once again, it's not a hat-specific book, but it's got very good illustration styles. So you've got different ways of drawing. You've got the kind of diagram way, which personally is my favourite, or you can be a little more expressive, and if you enjoy fashion illustration, where did my example end up? Here it is. You can try and develop an illustration style, which I am still working on. I have not figured out my preferred illustration style, and I've been doing this for about 4 or 5 years now. I mean, to be honest, I've been drawing all my life, but as you can see, I don't have much skill to show for it. But I figured that in this book, I might find inspiration, and indeed I have found inspiration, but I haven't found the skill. Let's have a look at my post-it notes. What did I think is notable? So what is this book? Well, it is exactly what it says on the cover. It's just 100 years of different styles of fashion illustrations. And the earliest one, I think it starts with some fashion plates. The earliest one it gives is 1908. So 1908 styles there, a few head wraps, a few turbans, but I've jumped straight to spring 1932 with this image, and I just love the upward sweep on this kind of sporty hat, this sporty 30 hat. In fact, it almost looks like it could be this one. Oh, my front camera is about to go, so if husband could come and help me change the battery there on the front camera, that would be wonderful. But we'll carry on with the books. You don't need to see my face for this. Here is another illustration. Oh, did I actually say what I liked about this style? I don't think I did. What I like here is how Art Deco it looks. She's got a very strong jawline. She's got bright red lips and bright red cheeks, but no other features are particularly emphasized. I really quite like that. I like the simplicity of that, and it means that the lines of the hats really speak about the design. Let's have a look. What next? Another illustration. This one is from 34, and it's got a square hat on it, which I went through a cone hat phase. I also went through a square hat phase, so I think that's probably when I bookmarked this one. It's not my most favorite illustration style. There's a lot of detail, there's a lot of angles. Well, actually, that's one of the things that's really nice in this image, is that this lady is drawn in front of the mirror, so you get to see both sides of the hat, which I thought was very, very useful. Oh, 1935. I think this is one of my most favorite illustration styles. It's very directional brushstrokes, so you don't get the exact hat, you get the feel of what the hat should be. And in many ways, this is a very interesting and very good way of how to design such hats, because if you're focusing on a specific trim, then you're going to want to really detail it and really draw it out really well. But if you're just looking at shapes, at block shapes, this is a really good way to illustrate that. You just get your paintbrush or you get your marker pen and you just slash across the page, wash some color down, slap it down, and you get a feel for this. And then once you've done that, you can start thinking about how you might actually make that shape. And that style of illustration can be very freeing for designers, because you're not designing something that you've already thought of. You've thought of a specific shape, you've put the shape down on paper, and only then you start thinking about how you might execute that as a design. So I look at this and I think, oh, maybe it's got a felt base, but then it's got a jersey wrap turban thing that maybe has some wire in there, or maybe it's all felt. Maybe it's all really fine fur felt steamed into this shape. free-formed by hand. Or maybe it's just a bunch of fabric piled up and it holds its own shape because it's that type of fabric. You see, there's so many possibilities here to take away from this. Oh, and the other thing I really like is that you can hardly see her nose, but you've got nice lips there, and I quite like that. I've kind of carried that through over here, but I've chosen to do the opposite. I've ignored the eyes and I've highlighted the nose and the mouth. Next one, oh, look at that, it's pink, obviously. And I really like how the veil is drawn on. So this is a really good way of drawing on a veil, because how do you draw a veil? It's transparent. You can hardly see it. If you did all the crisscross lines, you then wouldn't see the actual hat. So this is really cool. It's essentially giving you the idea that there is a veil. And that's all that needs to be there. Just an idea, a hint at a veil. What I found really useful when thinking about illustrating hats and drawing hats and being inspired for hats is, what's the minimum amount of lines or marks on the paper necessary to convey a specific idea? And that's where this comes in. Isn't that lovely? Just a pink pillbox, simple bow. It's probably velvet, like a really thin velvet bow and a veil. That's really pretty. I could see people wearing hats like this now. It's as relevant now as it was in 1938, but I would also say this would have probably been very relevant in the 50s as well. Timeless. Oh, look at this stunning illustration. 1943. It's an extremely detailed illustration. I cannot draw like this, but I do think this one is beautiful. But again, you see that veil? It's an idea of a veil. And what's this trim? We don't know what this trim is, but it's something. It's something fluffy and it's something on the front. So it gives you the freedom to jot down the shape of an idea and then execute it later. Oh, and this is my favorite one. I love this. I love that the rest of her body is outlined, but the hat is the star of the show. It's colored. It's still very much kind of thrown down. It's not very, very detailed, but it's detailed enough to know what's going on. And this is 1950 pencil and watercolor. This is, if I could get better at drawing, this is how I would like to draw my hats. But I'm still working on it. There we go. That was 100 Years of Fashion Illustration. Do I recommend you buy this book? Actually, yes. If you want to learn how to draw, this is full of really, really good ideas. So I do recommend that you actually buy this book if you're looking for hat inspiration. And drawing inspiration. Any kind of creative inspiration. 2 books left. I'm going to once again just take a very, very quick drinking break because I'm starting to get a tiny headache. So I shall be back in literally 1 minute. Hello everyone, I'm back again. Downed another glass of water. I'm getting very shiny and very hot. Right, 2 books left. I feel like this is a very heavy live stream. There's a lot of content here to go through. Right. Next book. Headwear. Hats, bonnets and caps from the Hopkins Collection 1700 to 1955. So once again, one of these kind of museum collection books. So this is a private collection owned by Alan and Vanessa Hopkins, and this is all of the photos of their various hats, starting from the date that I just mentioned. Once again, it starts as bonnets upon bonnets upon bonnets. So if this is your kind of thing, go for it. But what I really like about this book, more so than the other one, these two are practically the same. The vintage hats and bonnets, 1770 to 1970. This has a wider date range, I think. Yes, wider date range. But this one's written a lot better. And it gives you actual measurements of the hats. So if you're looking at how specific hats were made, this is really, really, really good. So for example, on this page, you've got the image of said hat. You've got an explanation of what it is. It's got all of the measurements. Unfortunately, it's in Imperial. I don't know why. I think this was supposed to be a British book, so I don't know why it's in Imperial. Let me check where it was published. Can anyone see where it was published? First published by the School of Historical Dress, 2020, Lambeth Road, London. Once again, we're very London-centric today. So yes, I don't know why it's all in inches. That's very annoying. I didn't actually spot that before. But yeah, if you understand inches, great. If you don't, you'll have to do the conversions like me. What's great about this is, firstly, you get views of the hats from different angles. So I think this here is the back view of this hat. Then you've got a little square drawn on that, and you've got back of the cap. The outline detail is shown on the right. So you get this blown up closer, and you can see what it is. So you've got the various different types of laces annotated and said what they are and where they are. I thought that was a really cool detail that I've not seen in any of the other books. I think if you want to get this book, you need to order it directly from the School of Historical Dress. I can't remember how I got hold of this one. Oh, look at that pretty, pretty embroidery. You see, look at this lovely embroidery, and once again, you get a close-up of it. So if you wanted to have a look at how you can do that, you've got good close-up images. Let's move on to some of the hats that I think are more relevant. Oh, smoking caps. I mean, they're really not relevant. No one really smokes anymore, do they? But this is from a time when men would put on a smoking cap and go and smoke somewhere. I don't know exactly what that is, but if there's caps for it, then clearly it's a special male activity. But they are very beautiful. Look at these, really gorgeous. And what's great, again, is you get the close-up detail. So this here, I think, is the top of... Is it the top of this one? Well, it's the top of one of these. Oh no, it's just the top of one of the embroidery patterns. But again, I just really like the amount of detail given in this book about all these various hats. It's really, really detailed. Unfortunately, it is mainly all pre-20th century hats. And when you do get to the 20th century, there's not as much detail as with the earlier ones, but that's okay. Some information is better than none information. Look at these gorgeous velvet flowers. It's such good quality images that you can really see how these flowers are made. You can really see the centers there. That's really cool. What have I got bookmarked? Some 30s hats. Again, like a kind of sports cap, pointy hat. This must have been bookmarked from my pointy hat phase. Oh, look at this. This is wonderful. And look, you get all the views. you get all the views. So you can pretty much figure out how a hat like this was made. Look at the front there, it's got a ribbon over the top. I would never have thought to do that, but now that I've seen it, I think that's very, very clever. Oh, and this one's very clever as well. Look, you've got an illustration from where this hat was featured in a magazine, and you've got the actual hat itself. Look at that really pretty Petersham bound edge. In fact, that kind of looks like it would have been machine stitched because you can't actually see the little jagged edges of the Petersham. But you can really see the detail in these images. It's great. In fact, let's read an excerpt about this hat. A hat in olive green felt, 1938 to 1945. The crown has 2 peaks in the front, 2 7/8 inch at their widest, one projecting forwards and the other sticking up. The wide edges are covered with paler olive green grosgrain ribbon, which also edges the back of the crown. Strips of the ribbon, 3/16 inches wide. What a silly measurement, 3/16 of an inch. Anyway, wide, form 2 circles asymmetrically placed on the top of the crown. A twisted strip of the felt, 1 1/8 inch wide, covers the join of the 2 peaks, with a bow at the front and the tail sticking up. The headband is folded. The headband is a folded bias strip, 3/4 inches wide, of dark brown silk, and the ends of a length of black hat elastic are sewn on each side. There is no lining. What a wonderful description of a hat. So, if you really wanted to make a hat for yourself, a vintage hat, maybe for an event like Goodwood or something like that, you wanted to really dress vintage and you didn't want to buy a vintage hat, you wanted to have a go at making your own, you could probably piece it together from this page. You could probably make your own version of this kind of hat, and I think that's absolutely wonderful. Some more hats. You might remember these ribbon pleated hats. I did do a video on those, and I did look at this book as I was doing the research on those. And there you go, Ehrman by Edward Mann. And this is also a really interesting hat feature that you don't really see these days anymore. It's a way of attaching a hat to the head that is a wireframe, and it's made in a way that it will hug your head, and it's made so well that it won't move. And you might look at a hat like this and you think, oh, it's not really going to stay on your head. How is that going to stay on your head? But really, trust me, it does. I've tried on hats like this. I've tried on vintage hats like this, and it's it's a really good way of fastening a hat to a head. The Haberdashery Project, that's Wayne from the Haberdashery Project YouTube channel, asks, what is Goodwood? So Goodwood is, I think, primarily a vintage car festival here in the UK. It's called Goodwood Revival. But it's kind of slowly morphed into a vintage fashion show as well. So you've got the vintage cars and then you've got the vintage hat fashion alongside it. So great place to showcase wearing vintage hats. I have personally never been. I think my husband might have been. Have you been there, darling? I think you might have gone one year as part of a dance crew. Was that Goodwood or was that something else you went to? But I've never been. But dancing, hats, cars, essentially. Apparently a wonderful day out, if a little bit overpriced. In fact, if very overpriced for what it is, which is partly why I haven't been. And difficult to get to if you don't have a car. Oh no, husband's never been. You went to something else entirely. Never mind. Would you like to go, husband? Should we go? Next year? There's always next year. Don't mind us, we'll just plan our family outings live on YouTube. This is the last book. Thank you to everyone who's stuck around till the end. Oh, husband, you want to go? Okay. We'll look into that later. Right. The last book. Has anybody seen the TV show The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel? You can watch it on Amazon Prime. I've watched 2 seasons. I know there's a third one that was released a couple of months ago, and I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but I don't mind spoilers. So if you have seen it and it's wonderful, you can talk about that in the chat while we go through this book. Matthew, my husband, is bombarding me with messages about when it is. We'll deal with that later, husband. Let me talk about the hat books. Right. What is this TV show? It's a TV show about a female comic who, well, it's about a lady from the 50s who has her perfect life and she's happily married and whatever. Then her husband cheats on her. She finds out. They get divorced. She becomes a comedian. This is a very short synopsis. She becomes a comedian and she travels around and she wears very fabulous fashion because she comes from a rich family. So it's always great when your TV show character comes from a rich family because we get to see really, really lovely outfits. Oh, look at that. Some fur felt hoods there. They look actually properly vintage, these ones. They look really good. The designer for the show, the costume designer, is a lady called Carolina Zakowska, I think her name is. Donna Zakowska. And she's very, very good. She has a very exciting Instagram page with all her illustrations and other shows that she's worked on. She's a very good costume designer. And this is essentially just a book about her work for the Mrs. Maisel TV show. And look at all these hats. Aren't they just gorgeous? If you're looking for hat inspiration, these are wonderful. I don't know to what extent these hats are original vintage or they were made specifically for the show. I think if you probably read it, it would tell you about specific hats. But once again, I bought these books primarily to look at the pictures and not to read the text, so I haven't actually read the text. Do I recommend you buy this book? Yes, absolutely. Do I recommend you watch the TV show? Yes, absolutely, because the hats and the costumes are stunning. So you've got a few hat examples here. I have bookmarked specific pages to have a look at. Oh, look at this hat. Oh, I seem to really be, what seems to really be catching my eye recently are these flicky uppy hats. I've already spoken about one earlier where there was something on the front like that. And now we've got this sticking up and the other with the swan umbrella. Remember with the swan umbrella? That one caught my eye as well. Okay, I need to make a hat like this, clearly. Oh, the internet's going funny. Let's try and finish this stream before the internet cuts out completely. This is great. This is a great page spread. Why have I bookmarked this one? Because you can see, so Midge, the character is Midge. She is wearing a hat in every one of these images. And this is showing a hat with just the dress, the hat with the jacket, gloves and bag, and then the hat with jacket, gloves, bag, coat on top. So this, I saw this and I thought I really want to share this with you guys in the context of hats being able to be worn with a variety of outfit changes throughout the day. So you might want to think about, how does your hat look when you're wearing a jacket, a coat even, like a spring coat or a winter coat or something big over the top of everything. Then how does your hat look with you wearing just the layer under that? So that would be, you know, skirt, top, or modern context, maybe you've got on jeans, some pointy shoes, a nice blouse and a blazer. That would, I guess, be the equivalent of this. How does the hat look with that? And then how does the hat look with just, let's say, modern equivalent, again, the jeans and the blouse and just the hat without the jacket or anything like that. So you see, things to think about. You see things like this in a book that's totally not about hats, that it's just about outfits. And I think it can put your mind into that mindset, I guess. And then you've got here the illustrations, which are wonderful. I mean, there's no hat in that illustration, but there's a hint at hat there, and how the colours all work together as well. I think this is great for inspiration. This is my favourite book. Oh, this is the infinity hat from my video that I did on Mrs. Maisel, and the infinity hats that were very popular. There we go. I guess that's it. Does anybody have any questions? Let me know your questions in the chat. Or if you're watching later, let me know your questions in the comments. And as I've already said, I do my best to get back to everyone. So let me know what you think. Did you guys enjoy all these books? What are you thinking of buying? What are you thinking of getting? What are you thinking of borrowing at your local library? How is everyone doing? Is everyone overwhelmed by the amount of books? Because I certainly am. And while you're all typing away your questions, I'm just going to take this opportunity to remind you all that if you'd like to draw any of your own hats, then you can go and buy some fashion head templates from my website, and the link will be in the description box. And husband, if you could just post the link again into the chat. Today, if you buy this pack today, you can get it for £5. If you buy it on any other day, it will be £7.50. So go and have a look at those. You get a pack of lots of different sizes of various different heads that you can illustrate in any way that you want, and have fun with that. Have a look at some hats in books and draw them for yourselves. Draw your own designs. If you read a book before you go to bed, you never know if you will wake up with a hat design in your head, and keep these by your bedside table. Jot down your design before it disappears. Michael says, thanks for another great stream. Thank you for joining me, Michael. You're a regular. Lovely to see you there in the chat. And Charlotte says the 100 Years of Fashion illustration book looks good. Yes, I do recommend this one. This is one of my favorites as well. This was the one with all the various different illustration styles. That is a very good one. And yes, in case you were wondering what my favorites are, it is definitely this one, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. Almost hit myself on the head with this one. Almost hit myself on the head with Headwear. And I do actually also really like the Hats Anthology by Stephen Jones. But I wouldn't necessarily say that it's an absolute must, but it's got some very good ideas and some very good thoughts on how Stephen Jones works. Stephen Jones's mind works. So if you're interested in that, have a look at this one. Wayne from the Haberdashery Projects asks, are you currently working on hats? I am. Not on anything new. I'm currently working on a whole bunch of orders for weddings, for Goodwood, for what else is coming up? Ascot. Yeah, essentially, yeah. So the Ascot orders have all gone out to everyone on Friday. So that's Ascot dealt with. If you know of anyone who needs a last minute Ascot hat, get in touch. I still have a few models in stock that are ready to be shipped instantly if you need a last minute Ascot hat. I mean, you never know. I'm also working on lots of wedding hats, and I've also got a few orders for vintage style hats for Goodwood. So once again, if you need any of these things, get in contact with me or tell your friends about me, and yeah. That would be really helpful to me, actually. I'm really trying to get my head around this whole hat making business thing, as well as the YouTube videos. Oh, and Wayne, in case you missed the beginning of the stream, this really caught my eye. I think you'll enjoy this. This is a hat I found in a charity shop for £2.99, and there will be a video on me remodeling it. So I think you might enjoy that. Anyway, I think that's everything. Hopefully that's everybody's questions answered. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to have a look at my head templates. Also, please, if you are new here, please consider liking and subscribing this video, because that really helps me grow and it helps the video reach more people. And I know that sounds really weird, but it's just how the YouTube algorithm works. And if you're watching this as a video on demand, also please consider leaving a comment, because that lets YouTube know that I exist. And we want to spread the love of hats, don't we all? So let's get people back interested in hats. This is great. So yeah, thank you. Everyone's just chatting away nicely in the chat, but I shall now sign off, and I guess I will see you all next time. Thank you for joining me. Bye.